afternoon, everyone. Yes, all right. So, we will not get started the effect of lunch here. All right. All right. I'll try to keep it interesting. So, the background, as you know, is the pager attack. On 17th September, we had one of the most novel and horrific event. Novel because I'm sure there's a lot of research that has gone into building such a device. Horrific because a lot of lives were also lost. Nonetheless, we have a lot of learnings from the event, and that's what we're here to discuss. But before we start, I'll just pass on the mic to everyone to give their introduction and give their intro statements on the panel.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Anant Shrivastava. I'm founder of c0c0n Research. We focus on researching in newer spaces like supply chain security is one primary area that we're looking at, more specifically around software supply chain security. And 2 cents on the initial comment. The attack that happened has brought in one key factor in terms of visibility to everyone, which is both in terms of supply chain as the conventional supply chain is an attack vector, and the software side of the equation is also going to become a critical factor in, say, inter-country dispute, maybe inter-organizational level dispute. So this is going to be an important area where everyone needs to look at in a deeper sense.
Everyone, good afternoon to one and all. I am Nagarajan, I am an IAS officer, but I have been working with technology for quite 2 decades now, using technology for building a lot of applications. That's where I could realize the importance of cybersecurity for the masses. While the new gadgets and new apps are coming up, the general population, especially in India, have a tendency to trust. And how do we move to a population where they have zero trust into the systems and they are quite aware? How do we build a bottom line for cybersecurity in the general population is a general concern for all of us. Where there is technology, there is a cybersecurity challenge and also an opportunity to get people along. So this involves building cyber resilience, the ability to fight back setbacks, both at the individual level, in the organization level, and at the national level. And this pager attack provides probably the first, very popular attack where a lot of people got aware that this kind of things also could be possible. So I think this trigger gives us an opportunity to push the cybersecurity awareness in all spheres of life.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I hope all of you here in the first half. My name is Phil Varughese. I work in a company called V Technology, which is a former HP enterprise. I've got 20 plus years of experience in AI, cyber, and national security. After working more than a decade in the analytics AI space, obviously, as you know, I was thinking, yes, a lot of fun building a lot of intelligence systems, and that started getting democratized. And working with a lot of people in the law enforcement side, I started seeing a threat in the intelligence systems that is built by the world's technology community, right? And that's where my passion started looking at, okay, it's not only just building intelligence systems, how do we build secure systems, right? Intelligence and resilience have to go hand in hand. What you can do towards that? And that's where I looked at national security as a base. When I looked at cybersecurity is nothing but a digital version of your national security, right? So, and when you learn the basics and fundamentals of your national security, cybersecurity is easy to learn. And when I started looking at the national security aspects, it was really mind-boggling. And I realized that there is a role to play in securing the digital ecosystem because we built a lot of digital and intelligence ecosystems across the organizations. But if it is not secure, there is no point in building intelligence systems, right? So we are building these systems. And I am not surprised by the pager attack, by the way, because there are even more sophisticated attacks already happening in the background and happening in the background, which many of the times we don't even know, right? And we are not even aware of that. So the question is actually, when we are living, as I mentioned in the morning, when we are living in a zero click attacks and zero-day vulnerabilities world, pager attacks will continue to happen, and it is happening. Sometimes it is getting exposed to the public, sometimes it is not getting exposed to the public. How do we really look at this future crimes in the context of this pager attacks in our house, in the nation, in the corporates, in our ecosystem? Together is the question that we need to answer. I hope in today's discussion for the next 30 minutes, we will find some of the guidelines and answers and the recommendations to see how we can reduce the pager attacks of the world. Thank you.
My name is Nikhil, and I'm founder at V Ahmedabad. It's another security conference happening each year in Ahmedabad only. Apart from it, I'm an ethical hacker and work on the under. I've worked with US federal government projects and multiple other agencies in across the world to find vulnerabilities and report to them. So my perspective is these kind of pager attacks and these kind of attacks has been happening since I was looking at one story that once it happened in 1996, where one guy, they call it the engineer. It's some guy from Gaza, and he was on call with his father, and he was shot down when he picked up the call. His phone blasts and he got killed on the spot. So I think this has been started in 1996, but the recent attacks is more widespread because it has killed more and more human beings and been a widespread attacks. So that's my two cents.
Right. So a brief background about what happened for folks who might have not read about it. On September 17th, multiple pagers blasted simultaneously. And from what is publicly available information, the explosives, it was a plastic explosive layer which was packed inside the lithium-ion cells and connected with non-metallic detonator. How it was detonated specifically, I think, is not yet widely available. And simultaneously on the next day, there were walkie-talkies again used by the same organization, which again blasted. The first one was from the pager was AR924 from Gold Apollo, and there was apparently a fake company created in Hungary that took license officially for the product, which was manufactured by them and we now who. And the other one was a product by a company called Elcom, the walkie-talkie. So given this event at this scale, what are the key lessons for that software and hardware companies can learn or should take from this particular attack?
So, as other people already mentioned, the trust but verify is a very important keyword here. What I could gather from the whole scenario, and if I have to give a recommendation to others, is more around one, you should be aware of what you are using. It is the same in terms of software, it is the same in terms of physical hardware. So when this hardware was purchased, it was purchased from a company which was created solely to sell to these particular agencies. Now, supposedly, if there was a due diligence, if they would have checked about that organization, they might have been able to spot a pattern that, hey, this organization is very new to the business. Do we want to deal with an organization for our mission critical work for these purposes? That's a question that could have been raised. And giving it as a guidance to all people who are sitting here, it would be the same thing. When you are looking at purchasing a hardware, when you are looking at importing a library in your code, are you aware of who has worked on it, where has that touched in, And especially the current geopolitical scenario where we have, I think, 3 public wars going on right now, and then the unofficial wars are in n numbers. But with the public wars going on, with each country having to pick their sides, like either you are with us or against us, or you are supporting our enemy, or maybe in some cases like what India does as a non-committal stance, like I'm not supporting you, I'm not supporting you, we want the war to stop. Whatever the scenario may be, the attackers are going to be there and someone is going to be dissatisfied with your stance. So someone would try and attack. So awareness and having the access to know the ingredients, which is where in software side we are starting to talk about SBOMs. In terms of hardware, again it boils down to do you even ask your vendor where the materials are originated from? So that's my point.
So, when we talk about this topic, especially where cybersecurity is seen beyond binary into hardware, into supply chains and other things, I would like to take the camera towards the other end, 180 degrees from the users and the consumer side. What are the things that we could do to build up the resilience? We have talked about, we have read about psychological warfare, then cyber terrorism. If a pager is blasting, whether it's a cyber terrorism or physical terrorism, it's a combination of both now. So we don't know that when a digital thing will come into the physical thing. And now, with this increasingly connected cyber-physical world, where we are entering into this, so it is very important to develop frameworks and architectures which are secure by design and secure by default. How do we mandate that? Through regulations and through guidelines and through standards. Standards are always prescriptive or recommended, but in a country like India, we are like the honeypot for anyone, where it is easy to attack also and create chaos. We don't need to actually create big damage, but even a scare would really, bring a lot of damage, or even a fear. Even terrorism is more about creating a fear in the masses. So this can be done. How do we sort of prepare our population to be aware of these kind of things? I'd like to take a very practical example. Even today, most of us would be getting daily one FedEx call, one telecom department call, one RBI call, saying that this will happen, that will happen. So there is always a transition phase when a new novel thing comes, but it is not yet transmitted to the public. There is a gap, there is a lag between the movement of the adversary or the attack and the general awareness. It's like, if we able, I find it's a better way to digitally vaccinate people, that how do we sort of spread the ideas, give them some possibilities about how this is happening, what this is happening, and how do we do it at a mass scale. If you want to do it at mass scale, then we have to organize ourselves internally. Then that is also related with the Home Department, police, and Homeland Security. So this kind of framework should be very strong. Right now, I feel that even being a bureaucrat, I've seen that collaborating for a cyber initiative is not very easy, and we are not having layered, structured, community-based approach to how do the official system engage with the unofficial system. There is a need for creation of neutral spaces where people are free to talk and collaborate and explore things, research things. So that kind of space, if we are able to galvanize at a large scale, internet work and all that, then we have a connect between the actual doers and the users, which is the other side, who are the intended beneficiaries of whatever we are doing. So it is very important to build an interconnected ecosystem of players. Apart from industry and apart from government, how do we build the society? So in disaster, even now in our disaster management plan, you won't find a digital risk as a disaster. So how do we make it faster and accept these kind of risks and start building resiliences at the community level? One small example I give. We just had this government sending warning messages to test any kind of disaster and all that with big sounds and all. What if that kind of a thing could be also fake and all that. So we just had a discussion, and so we need to inform public, verify before you trust. So how do we build it at a mass scale? How do we build a baseline of security awareness? Physical security we all are aware. रात को इधर नहीं जाना चाहिए, लड़कियों को ये नहीं करना चाहिए. So many other rules are there socially also. How do we build it into the digital world is the challenge. If we are able to crack that, I think a lot of our resiliences will be strengthened very much in this kind of attacks.
Thank you, sir. The pager attack happened in multiple different versions, in different contexts in the past, multiple times. And I think those were test beds, right? So, all of you remember the incident what happened in Iran, where the nuclear power plant was shut down, which is Pakistan, right? So that's happened nearly a decade back. So what was the example there? The example that even if you are not connected, even if you are submarine under a desert, yes, still somebody can reach out to your propellers and then change your speed and the pressure and the vibrations and can completely destroy you. Right? So, and not only just change the frequency of your vibration and the turbulence, but it can heat up and explode as well. So this is pretty much common. These kind of use cases are tested and unproven. Right? And now the question is actually what is pager is happening? It is getting democratized. It is having a scale. So that's what some of the examples what I was showing. The drones example, right? The pacemakers example. So these explosions can potentially happen at scale. So that's what one of the fundamentals. In my last probably 15 years in the both national security as well as corporate cyber security world, I've been part of a lot of incident response in the war rooms. I am not putting my hands for you, plenty of people. And in the war room, we do a lot of incident triaging, right? Especially on these kind of critical infrastructure or large corporate networks and things like that. One thing what I commonly observe is, in spite of having billions of dollars of investments in tools, technologies, processes into companies and organizations, significant number of times the breach is successful because some basics and fundamentals are missing. Not because of the lack of tools and technologies in the processes. We always say in the cybersecurity world, humans are the weakest link. In fact, that is really, really true. What happened in a chemical manufacturing company in the US, inside the plant, as an employee received a simple email with some vouchers and rewards. So the employee clicked on an email and the chemical manufacturing company was shut down for 4 days. Okay, we may think that what is the big deal? A company actually is shutting down for 4 days. The real big problem with that is nothing but it's a chemical manufacturing company. The IP can be used for creating weapons by terrorists. And the board of directors were called by the FBI. So what was happening? A phishing email was not able to be detected by an employee at your organization. It was clicked. Right? So this can happen at every level, whether it is inside our house or in the large corporate, in the corporate office or in a factory, right? So I totally agree with you, Anant and Nagarajan. I personally believe there are two things which are fundamental to reduce the number of pager attacks as a baseline, which is beyond technology. One is awareness. That's why I agree with you straight away. Awareness. In all my public speaking sessions, I significantly focus on real world examples. People come and ask me, why are you not talking about the latest tools and technologies? I say that tool and technology is nothing but enablers. We should look at tools and technologies that are enablers. Do you know how many tools and technologies today at least listed in the various ecosystems today? 12,000 plus. 12,000 plus. We are helping companies who are having 380 plus security tools and technologies deployed for defending against these kind of crimes, but still getting breached. So security tools and technologies are enablers. But the problem is that fundamentally, do we have the awareness in place? When there is a breach happens, when we do when we submit the RCA, the root cause analysis and the briefing to the board and a lot of things, we never thought that would happen. We were never thinking in our worst dreams that these kind of things can happen to us. Awareness. The second thing to reduce this kind of crimes is nothing but obviously we talk about a lot of zero trust. And again, there is obviously thanks to so many vendors in the ecosystem and analysts in the system, most of the time zero trust is introduced to the world as a tool or a technology aspect, which is not true. Zero trust is a concept, it's a framework, and it's a mindset, right? Zero trust is nothing but trust but verify. Where we can, Intel Zero Trust framework mostly started with the network segmentation so that your perimeter is covered. But that is just one aspect of it. Intel Zero Trust your applications, can you trust your applications? Especially when AI is taking decisions on behalf of you. I talked about autonomous devices, right? Can you trust, right? Your data, can you trust because your data is already poisoned by machine learning, ML poisoning and data poisoning. The third one is your devices, your people, especially when we are having deepfakes. Can we trust our deepfake people? Right? So there are plenty of these kind of things are in the zero trust ecosystem. We should literally look at it beyond verify, before trusting it, we need to be verified. So two aspects. Summarize awareness, continuous awareness across all levels, and zero trust across all levels. Thank you.
Yeah, so from my perspective, I think if I break down this pager attack, so it's a combination of intel and supply chain exploit. So the back consultancy that they formed in Hungary, I guess, they firstly get the intel from which particular from the terrorist group where they import the pager from. And I think it's from some Taiwan company, and they did an intel. They form a company called Back Consultancy, and then they make it like a 1 or 2 year company distributing pagers everywhere. And once they get intel that the Lebanon people, the Lebanon military is looking for pagers, and they import it from one company in Taiwan. So they directed, they made a partnership with that company, and they create the pagers and on the label of that company. So what happened is that chain is created from the back, and then this Taiwan company and the military, the Lebanese military. So actually that pager being created by Israel people, but through supply chain it goes to a trusted auditor, a trusted vendor, and then it being supplied to the terrorists. So I think there is a role of intel and supply chain attack in this, and I think we should have some vendor audits in these cases, if we can actually to verify if what vendor we are using and what all devices they are building and from which framework. And I think that's why Honorable Prime Minister has opted for Made in India initiative, looking at all these factors.
So I'd just like to add one more point. What Philip sir said about zero trust, it's very important. There is one other factor which a lot of organizations keep missing out, which is you don't need to purchase every single tool under the sun to protect yourself. The problem that the corporate world is facing right now is you have 500 tools and they are managed by 10 people. Now those 10 people will never be able to configure those tools properly. And you have a tool, you have a checkbox done, you think you're secure, but you have never configured it properly, you have never actually utilized it to the fullest potential. But because that buzzword was there last year, so you were forced to buy a product to get that checkbox done. So that's one thing that people need to be starting to look at. So there's a common term that people talk about, attack surface management or attack surface identification. I think the need of the hour is attack surface reduction. You should really look back and see, okay, how many tools do I really need? How many softwares do I really need? From developer standpoint, how many packages do I really need to use? We use packages from left, right, and center everywhere. So I look at corporate softwares, there'll be like 500, 600 dependencies, and God knows from where those dependencies are coming from. It's just, I like this, so I found a package which was using it, so I just picked it up. That is something that where regulations, governance could be an angle to put in, but there needs to be a focus on reducing your dependencies, reducing your attack surface. That's it.
Alright, so I'll try to play the devil's advocate here. It's not that they didn't have a process of doing due diligence. It's more of how the whole the manufacturing and the process was orchestrated, because this has been going on for more than a year. The pages were bought recently. The company was set up in a legitimate way. Licenses were received in a legitimate way. The devices now we know were manufactured by Israel. There were discussions about the battery pack which is used in this device and how superior it is to make it look more legitimate. There were people chatting about the benefits and or how the battery is better than other batteries. There were videos on YouTube about the product as well as marketing videos of the battery. The explosives that was used was plastic explosives, and I'm sure they from what Reuters tells us, they have a process of doing the due diligence and running it through X-ray scanners also to check whether there is any metallic extra component, which it did not detect. So I think things were looked through. They had an understanding of what would be the process for doing the due diligence when purchasing the pages. On the standards point, I mean, how many standards are we going to make? I'm just tired of the stand. I'm limiting my expertise to IoT and hardware security. And oh my God, in the last 3 years, the amount of standards and guidelines that have come up. If I want to manufacture a particular product and sell it to US, Europe, and Asia region, I don't think I can do it in the next 10 to 20 years unless I have millions of dollars to spend on getting compliant. So that's a challenge. I don't know how we're going to solve that. On the Made in India also, I think the way they did it was through legitimate sources. So they had someone contact the gold polo company. They had a legitimate company in Hong Kong as well, through which then they acquired a license for the Hungary company. I think if we talk about India, I'm pretty sure this can happen in India too, right? Somebody can create a company, a legitimate company, and do a lot of things, and I'm pretty sure this might be happening as well. So, apart from all the depressing words that I've shared, I would like to know if you can share with us, any kind of insights into, how organizations can ensure comprehensive visibility into legacy as well as third-party components. Because, so we deal with hardware, so I know it's extremely challenging when you look at supply chain for hardware. It's an unknown beast. There's absolutely no way that you can identify if you see a chip that there is a backbone on the chip. Absolutely no way. Because there's no standard to developing a backbone, right? It's how a particular researcher fancies to create the backbone. So there is really no straight method to identify issues in a hardware. I'm sure if they had a process of tearing open the battery, they could have identified it. But I don't think that's a standard process to tear open a lithium-ion battery just to check if there's anything else other than the cell. So what kind of visibility we can have?
So this actually brings me to two parts of the question. First part I'd like to answer, and I think Nagarajan sir would be a better person to answer about the whole national level or cooperation angle of it. But from a point of view of knowing your environment or knowing your hardware, bills of material is a common concept that exists. Nowadays we're talking about software bills of material. The idea is not that it is going to secure you. The idea is that it is going to expose the inventory that is there, the components that are part of the equation. Now, for example, and just thinking out loud right now, let's say the organization that purchased the pager used to have a process of actually looking at all the components that are there, and they would have seen a change in a component. The battery would have had a different specification. If there is any change, why that change exists? This is something we never ask. And I'm going to take an example from software world because it is easier, my domain, so I can talk a lot about it. But in a software world, when you're using packages, when there's an upgrade, when there's a new version that comes up, the general expectation is new version is better, we should move to the new version. Either that, or the approach is I am not going to change the version, I have used this version and I'll keep using it. Both the approaches don't give you the right benefit. The upgrade that you've selected as the best thing in the world might have bugs in it. The upgrade that you discarded because this is working for me might have been a security fix. The need is to look inside what those changes are, why this upgrade is there. The problem with that is, again, we have so many things to cover and so less number of people to look at it that we can't realistically do that. That is why I was talking about tax surplus reduction. That till you start reducing down the need of things that you have, you can't actually have processes to look at things. And we are moving towards trust but verify. But the key requirement for it would be there should be people who could, one, be expertise, who have expertise enough to verify, and two, that there are people available.
So, since I have been given 30 seconds, I would like to summarize in that the challenges, especially supply side visibility and all that, is there. Increasingly, these challenges are becoming interdisciplinary. When we talk about cybersecurity now, it is not the nerds with hoodies. It is you and me, people like us, who are going to be the stakeholders, whether as targets or whether as facilitators. And second is interdisciplinary. I mean not just within the tech domain, but financial domain, accounts domain, forensic accounting, people who understand more than technology. So there is a need for people who understand multiple domains to work at these kind of crossroads, to evolve a holistic approach to these kind of things. So for example, if there is a fintech product, that could be hardware, that could be finance, and that could be even supply chain. When the things are changed, it's a forensic accounting thing. That is the most important. So the bottom line is that it is getting complex, it is getting increasingly multidisciplinary. So we should add more type of experts into this kind of approach, and cybersecurity is a default mode of thinking. That should be something we should all try to achieve as a community.
Thank you. I think if you are not able to measure, you will not be able to control. So if you are failing to measure, you are failing to control, right? So one of the ways to measure in the cyberspace is, one of the ways that the government is, do you have the visibility to measure it, right? So whether it is your internal ecosystem or your external ecosystem. So internal ecosystem, as I mentioned in the morning, so all of your infrastructure, application, data and users. For external ecosystem, when your digital supply chain is coming to the picture. So today there are frameworks, assessments available. Example, third-party cyber risk management, TPR frameworks available, supply chain cyber risk management frameworks available, which you need to really look into to evaluate from a cyber maturity and readiness point of view, from an integration of your ecosystem. But I want to emphasize again, one of the continuous thing as an individual, as a team, as an organization, a nation that we need to do is nothing but create awareness why it is important, right? So it's not just a matter of tool and technology, it's a matter of life and death. So creating that awareness and continuous awareness across all levels, having the zero trust mindset created on a regular basis is the key to manage.
Good.
All right. So again, I'll try and play the devil's advocate this. Awareness is fine. If you look at it from a general public perspective, nobody is going to hand over a pager to you which will blast, right? So this is more target specific, and when the stakes are high, I think just awareness is not going to help you. And I don't know how, but you need to have a process to identify these things. We've been talking about supply chain, but this was a completely different product. So there's no question of actually checking the supply chain here, because if you look at SCOM or BOM for the products, it is what the company is going to give you, and that company is already a fake company, right? So how do you how do you secure yourself when you know that the target is extremely critical? So from that, what we can start with you, sir. Like, even the cross-border nature of the supply chain and these events. How do you think governments and the private sector can collaborate across the borders? Because this is extremely challenging.
Yeah. So, like we have very practical example recently. Government of India banned purchase of, electronic items from the countries who are bought in India. But we all know practically a lot of companies are, bypassing these things. Literally for their some quarter earnings or whatever, some compromises, some cutting corners here and there, could probably, it's the white elephant that we are trying not to see. And especially in technologies like drone, and we all know that even currently the level of this kind of strategy hacking could go into that semiconductor level also. So luckily now we are into semiconductor industry is gearing up. Probably we are building cyber defenses on that. So this kind of supply chain, what can we call it? Regards is actually creating weakness in the armor of our country. So indigenization is very important. So that's why the role of industry having compliant purchases is one thing. More than that, I would really go to the core of looking at India should emerge as the creator of these core technologies. We are still dependent, we are just tool vendors trying to, give market access to those companies. It's okay for now, but we should really question ourselves, how do we reach a place where Indian products, Indian thoughts, Indian principles and approaches of cyber security goes global. We have the capability, it is our own minds going there and creating these kind of great products. It's a round tripping that is happening. So there is a really need to bind cyber security with national security in our hearts. Once we do that, I think everything will follow.
Thank you. I think so you covered the answer for me. I personally believe that we should look at every device as a pager. Every connected device, whether it is pacemaker inside a house, inside a heart, or the mobile that we carry, we should consider each of them as a pager, right? Whether the laptop that we carry, the car that we drive, because I connect my mobile to the infotainment system in my car, right? So the infotainment system in the car itself can be a pager, right? So we should look at everything in our life like a pager going forward, and that we should be not only ourselves we should be looking at. We should ensure that who is connected to us, our family members, our friends, our colleagues, they also should start looking at every device as a pager in the context of the study.
I think continuous testing, the continuous testing of all the devices should be conducted and create more skillful resources that can conduct hardware audits, and through this we can actually connect government with the industry. We can actually be more secure with this.
All right. So I think with that we will sum it up and open for questions. I love your answer on continuous testing because it means more work for us. Tell the government that. So we heard about S-bombs and bombs. We heard about UAR and the government collaboration and more focus on indigenous products, more awareness. Yeah. Any last thoughts? 10 seconds.
So just one thing. Whosoever is looking at this scenario, depending on what kind of access you have, you should be looking at your own threat model. Be it an organization, be it an individual. If you are a small timer, if you are a student, your threat model is different than a colonel in an army versus a retired government official. So every individual has a different threat model, work accordingly. That's all I'm going to say.
Many times we think that I have nothing to hide, why should I worry? So you don't know what you have. your hacker knows. So we should be, very much aware that anything could be weaponized, and you could be weaponized, and you could be weaponized against yourself. So it's very important to build a cyber security mindset, to build cyber resilience, to come back when you are hit. So cyber resilience for individuals, organizations, and nations is a very, very important theme right now.
Thanks to all this, we all have jobs, right? And we have a job to do, and we have to do it together, either as a community or as an organization or as a citizen together. Thank you.
Connect with the community and allow us to act critical infrastructure that we can secure you.
All right. Thank you very much for being a part of my panel. I don't think we have time for Q&A.
It's good discussion. My take is that what happened was nothing else but misinformation and deception, military intelligence grade. Military intelligence grade. It took them 2 years or 3 years to set up that company and do whatever they wanted to do. They knew that those players were being used X place. The explosive which they had is a wafer thin layer of explosive which was planned by the program. And by the way, they sold the whole idea to the Hezbollah also. That it is the weight has been increased because your battery charge remains for a longer period. So it's a highly planned misinformation and deception campaign. Okay. Now when we say how do we do it at our end, we're talking about awareness and all ideas. Friends, it does not work. Awareness has not worked anywhere, neither in any company that I have seen. It happens once in a year and उसका ये टिक मार्क हो जाता है awareness हो गया. How? And fundamentally, the IT Act came in the year 2000. We are sitting in the year 2023 and we're still talking about awareness and how do we build that harder, right? So give me the name of 10 Indian institutions which have cyber security UG and PG programs. और जहाँ से बंदा जो है निकलता है वो जॉब रेडी. Even an MBA program with cyber security, I have yet to see somebody who comes out. The final thing is what? Everybody knows pen testing. Ask a pen tester or ask a CS guy, ISO क्या होता है, audit क्या उसको मालूम ही नहीं. S-bomb is talking about going to Mars and staying over there, sir.
So the question is, do we have the resources, the government resources to build those people whom we are looking for? I am sorry to say no, but if you have an answer, I will be happy to take it up. I think that's what I mentioned. We all have a job to do here collectively, right? Whether it's the government or corporate or citizen or urban mission, right? We all have a job to do collectively. Awareness, I totally understand the context that you come from. Just to relate to that, all of you know about the 9/11 attack, right? The terrorists came and hijacked the flight and hit the Twin Tower. What my understanding is that CIA had this intelligence printed in paper and kept in the FBI office. So intelligence has to be actionable and people have to act upon it. We have a job to do. So I think academia has a huge role to play. I think Cocoon is one of the fantastic platforms as a community here to create that awareness, share the awareness, and we all have a job to do. I personally do that at my level by going to a lot of universities, academies, and the board of 15 plus universities, helping them to build the future cyber force, right? So we also have a job to do. I think I encourage, request all of us to continue this effort to create that awareness, to ensure that people have not only just awareness, they have to act. When I say act means sometimes not to act. Awareness not to act, right? Zero trust is not to click all the links that are coming to you, right? Which can shut down a chemical manufacturing company or empty your bank account, either ways, right? So awareness as is important, but the question is actually, is it creating the impact, either to act or not to act, based on this scenario? Right. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that interesting panel discussion. I would like to invite Rajashika and IPS for presenting the monocules to our panelists.